On my 15th birthday I was arrested, so this was a memorable day, of course, as you can imagine. And within a week we were already in Auschwitz, so the transformation from in hiding, which was bad, but you know, this camp was just unbelievable. And life there, of course, I won't go into details because it was horrific, and that anybody came out alive is a miracle. But I was together with my mother, who was 40 years old at the time, and one day, after we had been there about 3-4 months, we went to a shower in the evening, and we came out after the shower naked, of course, and there stood Mengele with some of his guard, and a selection was taking place. And so we had to parade in front of him naked, turn around, and I went in front, and he sent me to one side and my mother followed, and he looked her over, and she was a very tall, before a beautiful lady, but shaved head, and she'd become very thin. I must say she didn't look particularly attractive. And anyway, so he, with about 40 other women, went to the wrong side, and they were taken to be gassed. And we were marched out to a different part of the camp, and for 3 months I thought she had been killed. So this was for me, of course, the most horrendous time in the camp. But through a miracle she was saved. And it wasn't a miracle, it was all kinds of things. And we were reunited in the beginning of January, just before the Russians came and the Germans left. You know, the Germans knew that the Russians were coming, they knew they were going to abandon the camp, so measures were not anymore so strict. You could go from one place to the other, and some Dutch people from our transport told me that my mother was alive and she was there and there, and I was able to go there. Well, she was very, very weak. She was lying in a bunk, and I came, you know, it was winter, there was so much snow. I was looking very red from the cold, you know, and I came, and you know, the moments that we saw each other was just because he had thought probably I died in the meantime, and I was sure she wasn't alive. So this was an unbelievable reunion. No, it wasn't really that. When we came back from Auschwitz, I just turned 16, and I really wanted the world to know about the atrocities, what had happened and all that. But people didn't want to hear. That was definitely the case. There was so much suffering all over, and people wanted to try to forget. And they said to me, you know, yeah, I know, but we don't really want to know, and just carry on with your life. And so we had to, and that's not just me, that was general. And so we had to suppress it. There was, of course, no counseling. So it was very, very difficult to be able to digest it and to live with it. And so after 15 years, perhaps, people started to be more interested and curious, and started to ask, you know, what happened, but then we were not ready anymore to speak. Well, this was, you know, people don't always realize the thing, you carry on, life becomes more normal, but it didn't, of course, you know. I lived with my mother in Amsterdam, of course, and I was very, very miserable for many, many years. And I went back to school, and I didn't want to take part of when they had a party or anything, you know. And so after a few years, Otto Frank came to our house very often, And he was an amazing person, you know. He was quite elderly because he married when he was in middle 30s and to children later. And so he had really lost everything. He was mid-50s. And he, being a German, he didn't even hate the Germans, and I really hated them at the time. And he said, you know, not all Germans are bad, and he tried to explain to me how it happened, why they went along with Hitler, and he had no bad feeling against anybody. And I was full of hatred, and he said, if you go through your life hating people, they don't know you hate them, they won't suffer, it is you who will be suffering. And that's of course true. You know, through this hate in me, I was a very miserable person. And so slowly I started to meet other people and so on. And then he and my mother discussed what I should do when I finished school. And Otto was a keen photographer. And he had lots of pictures from his children, but afterwards he didn't want to do any pictures anymore. And he gave me his Leica, which is a very good camera. And I was quite artistic, and so they decided I should become a photographer. And I didn't really care. Whatever they would have said, I would have said yes. In a way, you know, I had more will to survive than afterwards, because you know, we had in Austria a very beautiful family life. And you know, when I was 9 years old, the Nazis came to Vienna and to Austria, and so from then on life became really abnormal and difficult. So I didn't really have much ordinary, beautiful life. And then till 16, really all this terrible thing. And I really wanted to experience life. I wanted desperately to have a family and children and get married. And so I never gave up hope. And you know what people must realize, never ever did anybody expect the war would last it so long. When we went into hiding in '42, we thought for a few months perhaps, you know. Especially when America came into the war, we said, oh well, now Germany will be defeated very quickly, you know. And this is how you were able to go on. You said, well, another few months, you know, soon it will be finished. And so it dragged on and on and on. And you don't give up in the middle, you know. You can see, for instance, in America, I had once in a school, a boy asked me, were you able to take your pets? You know, so, you know, a camp, you know, and what did you do on Sunday? Yeah. You know, it's just something which you just can't. And I was full of hatred, and he said, if you go through your life hating people, they don't know you hate them, they won't suffer, it is you who will be suffering. And that's of course true.